tonight. Imagine yourself standing before a very old wooden door, hidden deep within a silent library where it seems no one has entered for centuries. Outside, the world has already sunk into stillness. The wind slips past the stone window frame. Candlelight trembles softly against the wall, and before you lies an ancient book resting on a long table, its cover darkened by time. Upon those pages is one of the strangest lists in the tradition of Western occultism: the 72 spirits of the Ars Goetia, the most famous section of the Lesser Key of Solomon. This is not a journey to summon or worship the darkness. This is a historical journey, where we slowly read again the names that once haunted the human imagination: kings, dukes, marquises, presidents, earls, princes, and knights of an invisible court. Before we begin, tell me where you are listening from and what time it is where you live right now. The door has opened, the book has been turned to its first page, and the first name that appears is Bael. Bael is described as the first king in the list of 72 spirits. From this very first name, the Ars Goetia shows the reader that its world is not simply a world of monsters. It is a world with order, titles, ranks, and a court of its own, where each spirit carries a form, a power, a promise, and sometimes a hidden danger beneath that promise. Bael appears in strange forms, sometimes as a cat, sometimes as a toad, sometimes as a man, and sometimes as all three shapes merge together into a body that does not belong to nature. The image is both difficult to understand and haunting, as if the ancient writers wanted to say that whatever belongs to the invisible world never agrees to remain still in one single form. Bael's most notable power is the ability to make a person invisible. But if we listen closely, we realize that this is not merely a strange wonder from an old book. It touches a very deep human desire, the desire to disappear from the gaze of others. There are times when human beings want to be seen, recognized, and called by name. But there are also times when they want to slip away from the world, to pass through crowded corridors without being noticed, to hear secrets without being discovered, to escape responsibility, watchful eyes, guilt, or fear. And so, from Bael onward, the Ars Goetia is not only speaking of a spirit, it is speaking of a dangerous dream, the dream of disappearing while still keeping power. After Bael, the page brings us to Agares, a duke described as an old man riding on the back of a crocodile with a hawk on his hand. This image feels almost as if it has stepped out of a medieval painting, an aged human figure who is not weak, a slow but frightening reptile, and a bird of prey resting on the hand like a symbol of vision from above. If Bael is disappearance, then Agares is movement. In the description of the Ars Goetia, Agares can make those who run away return, and make those who stand still run. He is also said to teach languages and to shake the rank and honor of human beings. With Agares, the listener begins to feel that the world inside this book operates through obsessions that are very ordinary and human. Language is power. Whoever understands the speech of another can cross borders, negotiate, deceive, persuade, or survive in a foreign land. But status is fragile. A person standing high can be pulled down. Someone who thought they had escaped can still be called back. Agares, therefore, is not merely a strange image on the back of a crocodile. He is the spirit of displacement, of roads that are never truly safe, and of the question, if one day everything we possess, our name, our language, our position, is turned upside down, who are we then? Then comes Vasago, the third name, and the rhythm of the story suddenly softens. If Bael makes a person invisible, and Agares sets the world in motion, then Vasago feels like a keeper of memory. In the Ars Goetia, Vasago is described as a spirit with a relatively gentler nature than many others, capable of speaking about the past and the future, and of finding things that are hidden or lost. This image fits very well with a quiet night. When someone sits before an old book and wonders how many things in their life have vanished without a trace, every human being has a storehouse of lost things, an object lost since childhood, a letter never sent, a sentence that can no longer be corrected, a person who has gone far away, a piece of memory that seemed to have fallen asleep, yet, sometimes, with only a small sound, an old scent, or a faded photograph, it returns. Vasago, in the flow of this story, can be understood as the name that represents the desire to recover what has been lost. But the Ars Goetia always leaves a shadow behind that promise. For not everything buried should be found, and not every future is a gift if human beings see it too soon. The fourth name is Samagina, also called Gamagan in some manuscript traditions. That shift in name itself reminds us that ancient books do not pass through history in a perfectly intact form. They are copied, altered, translated, passed from hand to hand, sometimes losing pages, sometimes changing letters, sometimes leaving a name distorted by time. Samagina is described as a marquis, first appearing in the form of a small horse or a small donkey, and afterward able to take human form. This spirit is said to teach the liberal sciences and to speak of the souls of those who have passed away. From here, the door of the Ars Goetia begins to open toward the cemetery, but not through bloodshed or cries of horror. It opens through silence. Samagina brings the listener close to one of the oldest questions of humankind. What do the dead still know, still remember, and can they still speak to the living in the medieval and early modern worlds? The boundary between scholarship, religion, astrology, philosophy, and magic was not always as separate as we see it today. So a spirit connected both to knowledge and to the souls of the dead was not strange within the imagination of that age. Samagina is like an echo from an abandoned classroom, where the lessons are still written on the board, but the teacher has long since gone into the dark. After Samagina comes Marbas, the fifth president, often described as appearing in the form of a great lion and then able to change into a man. The lion is an image of strength, authority, and control. But the power of Marbas is tied to something very close to the human condition: illness and healing. In the Ars Goetia, Marbas is said to reveal hidden things, to cause or cure disease, and also to be connected with craftsmanship and transformation of form. Here, the book touches the fear of the body. No matter how much knowledge human beings may have, no matter how many cities they build, books they write, seas they cross, or stars they observe, the body remains the most fragile place. A fever can make a powerful person weak. A small wound can change the direction of an entire life. In the ancient world, when medicine was still limited and disease was often understood through religion, fate, or invisible forces, the image of a spirit who knew sickness and healing was both frightening and alluring. Marbus, therefore, stands on the border between help and threat. And it is precisely that border that makes him unforgettable. The sixth name is Valfor. If Marbus carries the majestic form of a lion, Valifor is described through a strange hybrid image, often associated with the body of a lion and the head of a donkey. He is a duke. But the most notable thing is not his appearance. It is his dangerous relationship with human beings. The Ars Goetia says that Valfor can be a familiar spirit, a close companion of sorts. Yet, at the same time, he tempts people toward theft. Valifor makes the story feel very human. Not every danger comes from an enemy standing far away. Some dangers come from something very near, something we believe to be a companion, something that whispers that just once will do no harm. One small thought can open a dark road. A bad habit can begin with a feeling of familiarity, therefore. When speaking of Valfor, we do not need to imagine a ghost leaping out of the night. Sometimes Valifor is only like a very quiet voice inside the mind, telling us we can take what does not belong to us, cross a small boundary, hide something no one will ever know. But the Ars Goetia places him here as a reminder. What is closest to us is sometimes the hardest thing to guard against. After Valfor, we meet Amun, the seventh Marquis. Amun is described in strong and fierce forms, sometimes as a wolf with a serpent's tail, sometimes taking human shape while still retaining strange animal features. He is said to know the past and the future, and also to reconcile friends or change the affection between people. Amun turns the first chapter toward a new theme, the relationship between one person and another. In a book filled with promises of treasure, invisibility, and knowledge, the ability to reconcile may sound gentler, but in truth, this is one of the deepest powers. For what is harder to control than the human heart? A friendship can break because of a single sentence. A family can remain silent with one another for years. Two people who were once close can become strangers. Not because of a great battle, but because small misunderstandings gather like dust on an old altar. Amun, with a form both beastly and human, seems to remind us that within every reconciliation, there is a part of instinct that must be tamed. To bring two human beings back toward one another, one must first pass through the dark territory of pride, anger, and wounded memory. The eighth name is Barbatos, a duke who brings with him a very different atmosphere. When Barbatos appears in the flow of the story, we feel as though the door of the library opens into a forest at night. No longer only thrones, lions, illness, or whispers in a palace. Here there are birdsong, the sound of dogs, and wind passing through the leaves. Barbados is said to understand the language of animals, discover hidden treasures, know the past and the future, and also reconcile friends and people of noble rank. Barbatos is one of the most beautiful spirits to tell about in a bedtime style, because he carries the imagination out of the dark room and into nature. Human beings have long believed that animals know things we do not. Birds cross borders without maps. Dogs hear sounds before human ears can catch them. The creatures of the forest sense storms, earthquakes, winter, and the presence of predators. When an ancient text speaks of understanding the speech of birds or dogs, it is not only speaking of magic, it is speaking of the dream of hearing the natural world again with a pair of ears we have lost. Barbados is therefore like a guide through an ancient forest, where every small sound may be a message. Then the page grows more solemn as the ninth name appears, Paimon, within the first group of the Ars Goetia. Paimon is one of the most striking images. He is described as a king, appearing with a crown, riding upon a camel, with the sound of musical instruments going before him. He is no longer a solitary spirit quietly appearing in the dark. Paimon comes like a procession, like a court advancing into view, with trumpets, music, and distant movement drawing nearer and nearer. Paimon represents knowledge, the arts, the sciences, hidden things, and power made visible. If Vassago is the one who finds what has been lost, and Barbatos is the one who hears the voices of animals, then Paimon resembles a king of occult learning, where knowledge no longer lies scattered in forests or tombs, but is raised upon a throne. His image fits perfectly with the spirit of the Ars Goetia. Knowledge does not stand alone. It travels with power, ritual, rank, and awe. Human beings do not only want to know, they want to know more than others. They want to hold secrets that others do not possess. They want to turn knowledge into status. Paimon, therefore, is a name both fascinating and dangerous, because he shows that knowledge can be clothed in royal power. After the solemn grandeur of Paimon, the 10th name, Buer, brings the story back to a slower rhythm, almost more scholarly. Buer is described as a president, connected with philosophy, logic, ethics, natural science, herbs, and the power of healing, in the imagination of the reader. Buer does not necessarily need to enter like a king with trumpets. He is more like a strange form appearing beside a study table, among books on herbs, nature, the body, and reason. Buer is an important name because he shows that the Ars Goetia does not only reflect fear, it also reflects the hunger for learning of the age that created it. Before modern science took clear shape, human beings observed plants, recorded illnesses, studied logic from ancient traditions, read philosophy, looked at the sky, and tried to connect everything into a meaningful map. Buer stands where natural knowledge and occult thought touch one another. He reminds us that for many centuries, understanding a leaf, an illness, a rule of reasoning, or a movement of the body could all carry a sacred, mysterious, even dangerous color. Knowledge was once a forest, and human beings entered it with both reason and fear. The 11th name is Gushun in the Ars Goetia. Gusian is described as a duke capable of speaking about the past, present, and future, answering questions, reconciling conflicts, and granting honor or rank. After many spirits connected with illness, language, forests, knowledge, and power, Gusian appears like an interrogator in the dark, not necessarily violent, but enough to make one sit straighter, because he is connected with questions and answers. Perhaps human beings have always feared questions more than darkness. Darkness only covers our eyes, but the right question can open what we have tried to avoid. What have we done? What have we lost? What do we truly want? Do we really want to know the answer? Gusian is the spirit of that moment, when a person stands before the unknown and wishes someone would tell them the truth. But truth, in ancient traditions, rarely comes as a simple gift. It often comes with responsibility. Knowing the past can leave us haunted. Knowing the present can strip away illusion. Knowing the future can take away peace. And so, when Gusian is said to answer questions, we should also hear behind it a gentle warning. Not every question is meant to be asked at night. And then, the final spirit of the first chapter appears. Sitri, the 12th prince. Sitri is described in a strange form, with features of a leopard, with wings, and then able to transform into a beautiful human shape. The power of Sitri is tied to love, desire, and attraction between people. This is a fitting end for the first group, because after invisibility, language, memory, illness, deep forests, knowledge, and questions, the Ars Goetia finally brings us to one of the most difficult forces to grasp, the longing to love and to be desired. Sitri does not need to be told in a voice too dark or too heavy. It is better to imagine him like a mirror placed in a room lit by candles. Whoever looks into it sees not only a spirit from an ancient text, but also the desires within themselves that are not easy to speak aloud. Love can be gentle. It can redeem. It can make life brighter. But the desire to control love is something else. When human beings no longer only want to be loved, but want to force the world to love them according to their will, love begins to change color. Sitri stands on that fragile boundary. He does not only represent attraction, but also the moral question buried deep within many grimoires. If one can influence the heart of another, can one still remain innocent in doing so? And so, through the first 12 names, from Bael to Sitri, our opening chapter has traveled across a very wide arc. It begins with the desire to disappear, then passes through language, memory, souls, illness, temptation, reconciliation, the voice of nature, royal knowledge, scholarship, questions, and finally, love. At first glance, it may seem only like a list of strange spirits in an ancient book. But if we listen more slowly, we begin to realize that each name is like a mask placed over one of humanity's longings. Human beings want to hide from the gaze of others. And so there is Bael. Human beings want to control departure and return. And so there is Agares. Human beings want to recover what has been lost. And so there is Vasago. Human beings want to hear voices from beyond death. And so there is Samagina. Human beings fear sickness and hope to be healed. And so there is Marbus. Human beings are tempted by what feels close and familiar. And so there is Vala 4. Human beings want to reconcile relationships that have broken. And so there are Amon and Barbatos. Human beings want knowledge to wear a crown. And so there is Paimon. Human beings want to understand nature and reason. And so there is Buer. Human beings want answers. And so there is Gujian. And human beings want love, even when they do not know how to keep it. And so there is Sitri. But the Ars Goetia has only just begun. Behind Sitri, other names are still waiting on the next pages. Other kings, other dukes, warriors, rhetoricians, keepers of treasure, speakers of the stars, and spirits carrying promises of glory, power, love, and even deeper secrets. The book has not closed, it has only just turned to the next page. After Sitri, the Ars Goetia does not close. It only falls silent for a moment, as if the old pages need a breath before leading the reader deeper into its invisible court. If the first 12 spirits open the door to humanity's ancient desires, such as knowledge, memory, illness, reconciliation, the voice of nature, and love, then the next group draws us into another kind of space. There are trumpets, horses, archers, knights, keepers of treasure, teachers of astronomy, spirits of glory, courage, speech, and promises that human beings have always both longed for and feared. The 13th name is Beleth, a mighty king in the Ars Goetia. He is described as riding upon a pale horse, with music and trumpets going before him, like a procession from some faraway place advancing into the darkness. From that image alone, Beleth does not appear as a solitary ghost, but as a monarch who understands the weight of his own arrival. The space around him carries the feeling of ritual, power, and awe. Yet what makes Beleth unforgettable is not only that solemn majesty. His most prominent power is tied to love, or more precisely, to making love flare up in another person's heart. And here, the Ars Goetia raises a very quiet question. If love is awakened by force, is it still love, or merely another form of power? After the trumpets of Beleth, the page brings us to Lorage, a marquis described as an archer dressed in green, carrying a bow in his hand. The atmosphere immediately shifts from a palace courtyard to a wide, cold stretch of land, where low grass bends in the wind and an archer stands motionless at the edge of sight. Lorage is tied to battle, conflict, and the traces left behind by an arrow, but in a bedtime narration. We do not need to see Lorage merely as an image of violence. What matters more is the moment an arrow leaves the bowstring. Once it has flown, it cannot be called back. A word is the same. A burst of anger is the same. There are conflicts in life that begin very small, yet their echoes can last for many years. Lorage, therefore, is not only an archer in an ancient book, but a symbol of the things human beings have released from their hands. The next name is Eligos, a duke with the bearing of a knight. He is often imagined riding a horse, carrying a lance and a banner, like someone who has just stepped from the battlefield and entered the court. Eligos knows matters related to war, the future, hidden secrets, and the favor of those in high authority. If Laraje is the arrow already in flight, then Elagos is the one who knows where that arrow will fall, who will remain standing, who will be left behind, and who will be named by those in power. In Elagos, glory begins to appear clearly. Human beings do not only want to survive, they also want to be recognized, trusted, and placed higher in the eyes of others. But glory is like moonlight on armor. It is beautiful, cold, and can vanish very quickly when a cloud passes over it. After Elagos comes Zipar, the 16th Duke. Described as a warrior dressed in red, Zipar is also connected with love. But here, love is not gentle like a whisper beside a window. It is closer to desire, the body, attraction, and the helplessness human beings feel when they are not loved in return. In the Ars Goetia, spirits associated with love often make us recognize an uncomfortable truth. Human beings do not only want to love, but sometimes they also want to control how they are loved. Zipar stands at that boundary, where longing becomes dangerous because it no longer respects the freedom of another person's heart. Beneath the image of the Red Warrior is not a romantic story, but a very ordinary fear. The fear of being rejected, the fear of not being desired, the fear of love slipping out of one's hands. The 17th name is Botis, after the images of kings, archers, knights, and warriors. Botis appears in a more unusual form. He is first described as a serpent, and then able to appear in human shape. Holding a sword, Botis knows the past and the future, and can reconcile friends or enemies. Here, the image of the serpent does not only suggest danger. In many ancient traditions, the serpent is also connected with knowledge, shedding of skin, healing, and transformation. Botis, therefore, is like a bridge placed over murky water. On one side is resentment, on the other is reconciliation. On one side is the wound, on the other is a new order. But reconciliation is never truly gentle. Those who want to make peace often have to pass through painful memories, pride, and things they do not want to mention again. Botis stands in that place, both frightening and necessary. After Botis, the rhythm softens with Bothan, the 18th Duke. Bothan is connected with herbs, precious stones, and distant roads. He is said to understand the properties of plants and gems, and to carry people from one place to another. With Bothan, it feels as if we are leaving the palace and the battlefield to walk beside an ancient traveler. That traveler carries a leather pouch, a few dried herbs, a small stone, and a map worn at the edges beneath the candlelight. Bothan opens a world where natural philosophy, medicine, contemplation, and occult knowledge are still woven together. A leaf is not merely a leaf. A stone is not merely a stone. A road is not only the distance between two places. Everything may contain a sign, a use, a secret, or a warning. The 19th name is Salos, a duke described as a handsome warrior, wearing a ducal crown and riding upon a crocodile. Though he bears the appearance of a warrior, Salos is tied to love, But if Baeleth comes with trumpets and authority, and if Zepar carries the red color of desire, then Salos feels more subdued. The image of him riding a crocodile creates the feeling of a deep, still, ancient current. Love here does not flare up like fire, but flows quietly beneath the surface, pulling human beings along currents they themselves do not fully understand. Salos shows that the same theme can return in the Ars Goetia under many different faces. Love can be a promise, a thirst, an attraction, a harmony, or something human beings try to hold on to because they fear being alone in the dark. After Salos comes Person, the 20th king, one of the most solemn images in this chapter. Person is described with the face of a lion, riding on a bear, carrying a serpent in his hand, with trumpets going before him. That image alone is enough to create the feeling of a majestic procession passing through the night. Person knows hidden things, treasures, the past, the present, and the future. If Paimon in the previous chapter was knowledge wearing a crown, then Person is like a secret drawn up from the earth. But treasure in texts like the Ars Goetia is not only silver and gold, it is also what human beings believe they have lost. An answer, an opportunity, an object buried away, a truth hidden behind the wall of memory. Person is fascinating because he promises that the world can still be opened, but every secret that is found may also take peace away from the heart. The next name is Marax, or Morax in some variants. Marax is a count and president, often described as a great bull with the face of a man. This image is both strange and ancient, like the hybrid beings found in old carvings. Marax teaches astronomy, the liberal sciences, and knowledge of herbs and precious stones. After the grandeur of Person, Marax brings us back to the space of an ancient study, where star maps, jars of herbs, small stones, and old books lie together. In Marax, the Ars Goetia reveals a very interesting side of itself. Many spirits in the list do not only frighten people, but also teach. This reflects an age when astronomy, philosophy, natural knowledge, language, and occult practice had not yet fully separated from one another. Knowledge then was like a vast forest, both alluring and easy to become lost within. After Marax comes Epos, a count and prince, described in a strange hybrid form, both noble and animal-like. Epos knows the past, the present, and the future, and can make people intelligent, bold, and courageous. If many earlier spirits direct their power outward into the world, toward another person's love, glory in the eyes of the powerful, or treasure beneath the earth, then Epos touches what lies inside the human being. Everyone has wished, at some point, to be braver, to dare to say what must be said, to dare to leave a place that hurts them, to dare to step through a new door, to dare to face the truth. But courage and recklessness are separated only by a thin mist. Epos, therefore, does not represent strength alone. He also reminds us that inner power, if not guided by clarity, can carry a person to places from which they cannot return. The 23rd name is Aim, or Aim, a duke often described with 3 heads, riding upon a serpent and carrying fire. Aim is connected with wisdom, private answers, and the image of flame. It is a powerful image, but it does not need to be told in a heavily dark way. Fire is one of the oldest symbols of humanity. It warms, lights the way, keeps wild beasts beyond the circle of brightness, cooks food, and makes the night less frightening. But fire can also escape the hand, the hearth, the small torch, and burn down the very place where human beings once felt safe. Knowledge is the same. A truth may illuminate the mind, but it may also collapse the things we once believed. Aim stands in this chapter as an image of untamed light, both necessary and dangerous. And then chapter 2 arrives at the 24th name, Naberius. Naberius is a marquis often described in the form of a bird, sometimes like a great raven, with a strange voice. He is connected with rhetoric, the art of expression, skill in speech, and the restoration of lost honor. After kings, archers, knights, warriors, the one who rides a crocodile, the lion-faced king, and the duke who carries fire. Naberius appears quieter, yet his power is very close to ordinary human life. For honor is sometimes not lost through a battle, but through a story told wrongly. A person can be lowered by rumor. A dignity can fall simply because no one is willing to hear the truth. Naberius is the longing to speak again, to be named correctly, to be restored in the eyes of others. From Belith to Naberius. The 12 spirits of chapter 2 are like 12 rooms joined together in a palace without sunlight. In the first room, the trumpets of a king connected with love resound. In the next, a green-clad archer stands still in the wind. Then comes the knight of glory, the red warrior of desire, the serpent of reconciliation, the traveler of herbs and precious stones, the duke of quiet, deep love, the king who knows treasure, the teacher of astronomy, the prince of courage, the duke carrying fire, and finally the bird of speech. What makes this group of spirits so captivating is not that they are more frightening than the previous group, but that they are closer to the social life of human beings. Here, people want to be loved, recognized, seen by those in power, made stronger, told what is coming, made wiser, and restored to honor when everything seems lost. These desires are not unfamiliar. They have only changed clothing through time. Long ago, they walked in the forms of kings, dukes, knights, and ravens inside a grimoire. Today, they may appear in the gaze of a crowd, in praise and criticism, in status, and in the words others speak about us when we are not present. And that is why the Ars Goetia still makes people curious after so many centuries. Beneath its strange shapes is not only an imagination of demons. Beneath them lies a map of deeply human desires, to be loved without being rejected, to gain glory without losing oneself, to find hidden treasure, to speak one sentence powerful enough to recover dignity, to have the courage to keep going. But every promise in this book comes with a shadow. Love can become control. Glory can become a cage. Knowledge can become fire. Speech can save a person, but it can also wound another. As the name Naberius recedes into the darkness of the page, the trumpets of Belith seem to have faded long ago. The archer has lowered his hand. The knight has vanished beyond the corridor. The fire of aim remains only as a small streak of light on the edge of the page. The Ars Goetia still lies open on the table, and the candle continues to burn slowly in the quiet library. Chapter 2 does not close with a loud sound, but with the feeling that we have just passed through a very strange court, where frightening forms are only the outer garments of the things human beings have always secretly desired. But the journey has not ended. After Naberius, the next pages will bring us closer to buried secrets, prophecies, starlight, treasures, and the kinds of knowledge that human beings have always both longed for and feared to touch. The book has not closed. It is only waiting to be turned to the next page. After Naberius. The final voice of the previous chapter still seems to echo faintly in the darkened room. The art of rhetoric, lost honor, words that can lift a person up or drag them down. All of it still hangs in the air like fine dust within the candlelight. But the Ars Goetia does not stop at speech. It turns toward a deeper region, where the next spirits no longer speak only of love or glory, but begin to lead the reader closer to the secrets hidden behind gold. Prophecy, tombs, starlight, ancient knowledge, and the things human beings have always wished to know before night falls completely. The 25th name is Glasia Labolas, a powerful president and count. He is described in the form of a dog with wings like those of a griffin, an image both loyal and fierce, both familiar and not belonging to the ordinary world. In the Ars Goetia, Glasia Labolas is said to teach the arts and sciences very quickly, to know the past and the future, to make a person invisible, and also to be connected with the darker sides of conflict. And so, when this name appears, we feel as though we are looking at a kind of knowledge that arrives too quickly, too sharply, and too difficult to control. Glasia Labolas is a powerful opening for the 3rd chapter. In him, knowledge is no longer a gentle candle on the study table. It is like a door suddenly flung open, revealing both the light and the darkness behind it. Human beings have always dreamed of learning faster, knowing more, and seeing what has not yet happened. But if all understanding arrives in a single moment, can the mind truly bear it? There are truths that need time to be understood. There are forms of knowledge that, if given too early, do not make a person more peaceful, but only take away their final innocence. Glasia Labolas is therefore like the first warning of this chapter. Hidden knowledge is not always gentle when it is opened. After Glasia Labolas comes Boon, or Bime, a great and powerful duke. Boon is described in the form of a dragon with 3 heads, one like a dog, one like a griffin, and one like a human being. He has a high, solemn voice, and he is connected with very ancient themes: tombs, spirits, wealth, wisdom, eloquence, and truthful answers. If Glasia Labolas is a door of knowledge, opened too quickly. Then Boon is a stone corridor leading down to the place where memory is buried deep. When speaking of Bune, there is no need to make the scene horrifying. What matters more is the feeling of silence around the tomb in the ancient world, where death was never far from daily life. A tomb was not only a place of ending, it was also a place where names, possessions, vows, family memories, and hopes for some kind of continuation beyond the darkness were kept. Boon is said to grant wealth and make people wise and eloquent. This creates a strange but meaningful combination. Gold and tombs, speech and the dead, riches and memory. It is as if the Ars Goetia wants to remind us that human wealth always stands beside human finitude. No matter how much one gathers, every treasure, in the end, rests beneath a silent sky. The 27th name is Ronove. He is a great marquis and count, appearing in a monstrous form, yet his powers are tied to things very close to civilization, rhetoric, language, servants, assistants, and favor from friends or enemies. After the heavy image of Boon, Ronove brings us back to the power of speech, but on another level. If Nabarius restores honor through the art of expression, then Ronove teaches how to use language to pass through the world. Language has always been a kind of key. A person who knows how to speak at the right moment can open a door that strength cannot open. A person who understands many languages can cross borders, hear different stories, read different texts, and see the world through many pairs of eyes. In the ancient and medieval worlds, the ability to express, persuade, translate, and speak fluently was not only a skill, but a form of power. Ronove, therefore, is not merely a strange name in the list. He represents the dream of mastering speech, being heard by others, and receiving favor even from places that seem hostile. After Ronove, the candlelight in the room seems to shift into a deep red as the name Berith appears. Berith is the 28th Duke, described as a soldier dressed in red, riding a red horse, with a golden crown upon his head. He answers concerning the past, present, and future, can turn metal into gold, grant titles, and strengthen a person's status in Berith. The third chapter steps directly into the symbol of gold, one of the strongest images in occult imagination. Gold is not only wealth. Gold is light, held inside matter. It does not rust like iron, fade like cloth, or rot like wood. For that reason, in many cultures, gold is often tied to power, immortality, the sun, the throne, and the things human beings wish to keep forever. Berith riding a red horse and wearing a golden crown is like a promise of advancement, riches, and status. But gold also has its shadow. A person who wishes to turn every metal into gold may forget the value of things that cannot be measured by gold. A person who wants their rank confirmed may become bound by that very rank. Berith does not need to frighten the listener. The image of a golden crown and candlelight is enough for us to understand that every promise of power has a powerful attraction. The next name is Astaroth, a great and mighty duke, famous not only within the Ars Goetia, but also in broader demonological traditions. in the Goetia's description. Astaroth appears like a damaged angel, riding upon a creature resembling a dragon and holding a serpent in his hand. He answers concerning the past, present, and future, and can reveal secrets. But with Astaroth, we must speak carefully, because this is a name that has passed through many layers of texts, many interpretations, and many mixtures of religious history and occult imagination. Astaroth brings with him the feeling of a very old name, as if it does not belong to any single book. It is like a fragment from more distant traditions, picked up, reshaped, and placed into the system of the Ars Goetia. What is notable here is not only the strange form, but the power to reveal secrets. Secrets are what always make human beings lean toward the darkness. We want to know who is telling the truth. We want to know what is being hidden. We want to know what really happened in the past, what the present is concealing, and what answer the future will bring. But the deeper we move into this chapter, the more we recognize a repeating motif. These names promise knowledge, but they never promise that such knowledge will make human beings happy. After Astaroth comes Forneus, the 30th Marquise, appearing in the form of a great sea monster. With that image alone, the space of the story changes again. We leave the red palace of Berith, leave the dragon and serpent of Astaroth, and stand before a vast night sea. Forneus teaches the art of rhetoric, helps human beings gain a good reputation, understand languages, and be loved by both friends and enemies. It is a beautiful combination, deep sea and speech, water monster and human reputation. In the ancient imagination, the sea was a place that contained the unknown. It concealed sunken cities, shipwrecks, strange creatures, distant calls, and roads without footprints. Forneus seems like a spirit rising from the dark surface of the water, carrying the power of language and reputation. This makes us think that speech is also like the sea. It can carry human beings very far. It can connect lands that cannot see one another. It can soften enemies, help friends understand each other, or create a good name in the memory of others. After promises of gold and secrets, Forneus reminds us that reputation is not built only by power, but also by the way human beings speak, listen, and are spoken of. The 31st name is Foras, a powerful president who appears in the form of a strong man. Foras teaches human beings to understand the properties of herbs and precious stones, logic, ethics, eloquence, the discovery of treasure, and the recovery of things that have been lost. After the sea monster Forneus, Foras brings the story back to solid ground, into a quieter study room where there are stones, leaves, books of ethics, and questions of reason. Foras is one of the spirits who helps restore balance to this chapter. Not every name must come with majesty or threat. Some names are connected with slow learning, with the ability to understand the nature of things. A branch of a plant can heal or harm. A stone can be seen as a symbol of a planet, a property, a color, or a fate. Logic helps human beings think more clearly. Ethics helps them ask whether what they desire should truly be done. Foras, therefore, is like a strange teacher in the darkness, one who not only points toward treasure outside, but also reminds us that the true treasure may lie in the ability to distinguish right from wrong within the mind itself. After for us. Chapter 3 arrives at one of the most famous names, Asmodee, or Asmodai. In the Ars Goetia, Asmodee is a great, strong, and powerful king. He is described with 3 heads, one of a bull, one of a man, and one of a ram, with a serpent's tail. Webbed feet like a goose, a mouth breathing fire. Riding upon a dragon and carrying a lance and banner. This is a complex image, rich with symbolism, almost as though it has been assembled from many layers of fear and power. Asmodee should not be told in haste. When this name appears, the rhythm of the story should slow, as if the reader must look at each detail in a great painting. The 3 heads are like 3 different instincts within one body. The fire is restless power. The dragon is an image of ancient authority. The lance and banner return him to the atmosphere of war and kingship. But what matters most is not to turn Asmodee into a sensational figure. In this video, he should be seen as a symbol of mixture, intelligence and instinct, ambition and control, power and fear. Asmodee stands at the center of chapter 3 like a dark summit, where the listener feels that the book has gone very far beyond its earlier, gentler promises. The 33rd name is Gop, a great president and mighty prince. Gop is described as appearing when the sun is in certain southern signs. In human form, going before 4 great kings as though guiding them. He can make human beings knowledgeable or confused, teach philosophy and the liberal sciences, cause love or hatred, answer about the past, present, and future, and is also connected with swift movement from one kingdom to another. Gop is the spirit of guidance, but also the spirit of reversal within the mind, knowing and not knowing, love and hatred, clarity and confusion, all stand dangerously close together in him. There are people who believe they are being led in the right direction, when in truth they are being drawn onto another road. There is knowledge that makes us more awake, but there are also things that disturb the mind because we know them without understanding them. Gop walks before kings like one who opens the way, but where that way leads is not always clear. In the flow of the story, he is like a great crossroads beneath the night sky, where every path seems correct when we first look at it. After Gop comes Furfur, the 34th count. Furfur appears in the form of a stag with a fiery tail, and when brought into proper order, may appear in the form of an angel. He is connected with love, thunder, lightning, great winds, storms, and answers concerning secret or sacred matters. With Furfur, nature returns in vast sound, wind striking the door, clouds dragging across the stone roof, thunder rolling far away in the night. Furfur is well suited to a bedtime voice if we do not emphasize violence, but instead the feeling of watching a storm from inside a safe room outside. The sky is moving inside. The candle trembles but has not gone out. Furfur is the image of emotion when it becomes weather. Love, too, can sometimes resemble a storm, arriving suddenly, overturning everything inside, and leaving behind a different sky after it is passed. The thunder and lightning of Furfur are therefore not only powers of nature, but symbols of the movements inside the human mind, where a secret sometimes appears only in a flash of light. The 35th name is Marcosias, a great and mighty marquis. He first appears in the form of a wolf with griffin's wings and a serpent's tail, and afterward can take human form. Marcosias is described as a powerful warrior, and there is a particularly striking detail that he once spoke to Solomon of his hope, after a long time, to return to the 7th throne. This is one of the most tragic passages in this group, because beneath the image of the winged wolf there is not only strength, but also the memory of a place that has been lost. Marchosius makes us think of exiles in myth, still fighting, still proud, but carrying within themselves a distant hope of return. The wolf is instinct. The wings are the desire to rise, and the serpent's tail is the trace of danger still clinging behind. When telling of Marcosius, the voice can slow, as if we are looking at a figure standing on a dark hill, not entirely belonging to the earth, yet not able to return to the sky. He is not only a warrior, he is the image of pride pushed outside the old order, yet still unable to stop remembering it. And finally, chapter 3 closes with Stolas, or Stolos, the 36th prince. Stolas first appears in the form of a great raven, and afterward takes human form. He teaches astronomy and the properties of herbs and precious stones, after so many powerful images in this chapter: 3-headed dragons, gold, serpents, sea monsters, fire, storms, and winged wolves. Stolas appears like a quiet pause beneath the starry sky. Stolas is a beautiful name with which to end the chapter. He leads the listener away from the heavy corridors of gold, prophecy, and power, and makes us look up at the night sky. Astronomy in the ancient world was not only the measurement of stars, it was also an attempt to find order in the cosmos. To find a rhythm above that might help explain the changes below. Together with herbs and precious stones, Stolas connects sky and earth, stars and plants, distant light and the small objects held in human hands. After so many promises of secrets, Stolas reminds us that there is a kind of knowledge that does not need to be loud. It comes from long observation, from patience, from silence, from lifting one's head and realizing that one is only a very small part of the vast night. From Glazia Labolas to Stolas, chapter 3 is like a journey through the deepest rooms of an ancient library. In the first room, knowledge appears too quickly and too sharply. In the second, a 3-headed dragon stands near tombs and promises of wealth. Then comes the teacher of speech, the one with the golden crown, the ancient name that reveals secrets, the sea monster of reputation, the teacher of logic and ethics, the many-formed king of power, the guide through the labyrinth of the mind, the stag who carries the storm, the winged wolf of distant hope, and finally, the raven of the stars. As Stolas withdraws into the starlight of the page, chapter 3 closes with a feeling much quieter than the one with which it began. The candle still burns upon the table. the names that have just passed leave behind the scent of old paper. A dim glimmer of gold, the sound of a faraway sea, the fading echo of a storm, and a night sky full of small points of light. The Ars Goetia has not closed. It is only holding its breath before leading us into the next pages, where fortresses, night seas, and the forgotten things still wait in the dark. After Stolas. The starry sky of the previous chapter still seems to hang quietly above the page. Those distant lights give the listener the feeling of having just left a vast region of knowledge, where herbs, precious stones, and astronomy are joined together by invisible threads. But the Ars Goetia does not allow us to remain beneath that sky for long. The book continues to turn to a new page, and this time, the scene grows heavier and deeper, as if we are leaving the tower of stargazing behind and descending into a land of old fortresses, night seas, abandoned houses, forgotten tombs, and secrets buried beneath cold stone. The 37th name is Phoenix, or Phoenix. Phoenix is ranked as a great marquis, appearing in the form of a phoenix, with a voice described as sweet as that of a child. That image opens the 4th chapter with a very strange beauty. After the names tied to gold, prophecy, and storms, Phoenix arrives like a thin song in the darkness. But that song also carries a warning. In the Ars Goetia, the reader is cautioned not to be enchanted by that sound before the spirit is compelled to appear clearly in human form. We do not need to tell this as a ritual. It is enough to understand it as a symbolic image. Not every song in the night should be followed. Phoenix is the spirit of poetry, of voice, of beauty that can make people forget where they are. A beautiful song can comfort a human being. A beautiful line of poetry can preserve what ordinary life has dropped and lost. But beauty can also soften the mind, causing us to step towards something we do not yet understand. Phoenix, therefore, opens this chapter with a feeling that is both gentle and uncertain. The phoenix often suggests rebirth, but in the darkness of the Ars Goetia, that rebirth is not entirely pure and bright. It is like a fire that went out long ago, with only a remaining song left among the old walls. After Phoenix comes Halphus, a count described as appearing in the form of a stock dove, with a hoarse voice. This image sounds gentler than many of the spirits before it, but the power of Halphus is tied to towers, fortresses, weapons, and the sending of people to appointed places. When the name Halphus appears, we seem to hear wind passing through the arrow slits of a stone wall. Towers are raised in the night. Storehouses are filled. Gates are closed. And inside there is a feeling of preparation for some event that has not yet arrived. Halphus does not need to be told as a spirit of violent war. What is more interesting is that he represents the defensive instinct of human beings. When people are afraid, they build walls. When they no longer trust the world outside, they raise towers. When the future feels uncertain, they store supplies, stand guard, and prepare a fortress. Therefore, is both a place of protection and a sign of fear. Halphus stands in this chapter as the architect of caution. He reminds us that many walls are built not only from stone, but also from memory, suspicion, and wounds that have not yet healed. The 39th name is Malphus, a great president who often appears in the form of a raven. Malphus is also connected with houses, high towers, structures, builders, and the ability to reveal the intentions of enemies. Yet, in the traditional description, he also carries a shade of deception, because his gifts or his acceptance are not always to be trusted. If Halphas is the builder of fortresses for defense, then Malphas is like the raven perched on the edge of the city wall, watching everything being built, and also everything quietly being undone. Malphus brings us into a theme very close to ordinary life: suspicion. Human beings build houses to take shelter, yet they still fear that someone may know how to enter. They raise towers to see far ahead, yet they still fear that something is happening behind them. Malphus is the spirit of construction and hidden intention, of plans concealed beneath layers of stone. When telling of Malphus, we can imagine an ancient city at midnight, where the windows have gone dark, but on the rooftops there is still the faint beating of wings. No one knows whether the raven is only watching, or whether it is memorizing the secrets of every room. After Malphus comes Raum, a great count, who also appears in the form of a bird, often a raven, and then may take human form. Raum is said to take treasure from the houses of kings, carry it to the place requested, destroy cities and dignities, and also speak of the past, present, and future, as well as reconcile friends with enemies. This is a name rich with meaning in the 4th chapter, because Raum touches the fragility of possessions and power. Raum makes us think of treasure rooms opened in the night, of chests of gold no longer intact, of courts that seem secure yet could lose everything through an invisible hand. But the treasure here is not only gold, it may be reputation, trust, authority, position, or anything human beings believe they have carefully locked away. Raum reminds us that no lock is absolutely safe from time. Cities can fall, titles can be lost, treasure can change hands. And strangely, within the same spirit connected to taking and breaking, the Ars Goetia also mentions the power of reconciliation, as if after everything has been unsettled, human beings finally realize what is truly worth keeping. The 41st name is Folklore, a great duke, described in the form of a man with griffin wings. Folklore is connected with the sea, winds, and ships. When this name appears, the landscape of the 4th chapter leaves the fortress behind and moves out toward the ocean. We seem to stand on a cliff at night, looking down at a black sea in motion. The wind pulls hard against the cloak, far away. A small ship remains only a shadow beneath a moonless sky. Folklore is one of the spirits who makes the space suddenly expand. A fortress, however dark, is still something built by human hands. But the sea is different. The sea does not belong to human hands. It has its own rhythm, its own anger, its own secrets in the ancient world. The sea was both a road and an abyss. It carried merchants, sailors, armies, and dreams far away. but it could also swallow everything in a single night. Folklore, therefore, is the fear of those who look into the water and understand that there are places human beings can only pass through, but never truly master. After folklore comes Vipar, a duke described in the form of a mermaid. Vipar is also connected with the sea, ships, and disasters that come from the water. But if folklore is the strong wind offshore, then Vipar is like the dark water beside the hull of the ship, softer, closer, quieter, and because of that, sometimes even more unsettling. The image of the mermaid in ancient traditions often carries two sides, both alluring and dangerous. Belonging both to beauty and to the breathless depth of the sea, Vipar allows the story to slow down. We can imagine a ship drifting through mist, the wood creaking softly, while those aboard can see nothing beyond the black surface of the water in that place. The sea does not need to storm in order to make people uneasy. It only needs to be silent. Vipar represents what lies beneath the surface, unseen currents, cracks not yet revealed, dangers that come very close without making a sound. In a bedtime story, Vipar should not be told through horror, but through a slight chill at the back of the neck. Like when we look down into deep water and do not know what might be looking back. The 43rd name is Sabnok, a great marquis, described as a warrior with the head of a lion, riding upon a pale horse. Sabnok is connected with fortresses, high towers, weapons, and traces that remain long after conflict. After the two spirits of the sea, Sabnok brings us back to land, but not to a peaceful city. This is land that already knows defense, building, injury, and memory. Sabnok is like the guardian of walls that have endured many seasons of wind. He represents the long-lasting part of conflict, the part that remains after the noise has faded. A fortress may still stand, but the stone may still hold its cracks. A person may continue living, but within the heart there may still be traces of what has passed. With Sabnok, we do not need to emphasize physical wounds. What matters more is the idea that no collision truly disappears completely. It leaves behind new structures, new habits, new caution, and sometimes the highest walls are built by those who have been hurt the most. After Sabnok comes Shax, a great marquis, appearing in the form of a stock dove, with a hoarse yet subtle voice. Shax is said to be able to take away sight, hearing, and understanding, as well as money or hidden objects. He can also reveal things that are concealed if bound within the order of the text. With Shax, the 4th chapter enters a very delicate region, the region of lost perception. Shax does not only take objects, he also evokes the fear of losing the ability to understand the world. To lose sight is to no longer see the road. To lose hearing is to no longer hear the call. To lose understanding is to stand in the middle of life, no longer certain what is right, what is wrong, who is trustworthy, and who is deceiving us in life. There are moments when human beings do not truly lose their eyes or ears, yet still feel as if they can no longer see clearly, hear clearly, or understand clearly. Shax is the name of that disturbance. He is like a mist passing through the room, not knocking over the table, not putting out the candle, but making everything before our eyes grow uncertain. The 45th name is Vinay, or Vine, a king and count. Vinay is described with a powerful image, in the form of a lion, riding a black horse, holding a serpent in his hand. He can reveal hidden things, speak of witches or secret matters, and is also connected with breaking down walls, causing waters to rise, and creating upheaval. If Shax makes everything become unclear, then Vinay is like a force that tears open what has been concealed behind stone walls. Vinay fits the theme of Chapter 4 more than almost any other spirit, because he stands between fortresses and secrets. Walls are built to protect, but also to conceal. Some walls keep outsiders outside. Some walls keep the truth inside. Vinay, with the black horse and the serpent in his hand, is the image of the moment when the wall begins to crack. In the story, he can be imagined as the very faint sound of stone shifting in the night, signaling that what has been hidden for too long no longer agrees to remain silent. But when a wall opens, people do not only find treasure, sometimes they also find what they tried to forget. After Vinay comes Bifrons, a count who first appears in the form of a monster, and then may take human form. Bifrons teaches astrology, geometry, the properties of herbs and precious stones, and is especially connected with moving dead bodies and lighting candles upon tombs. This is one of the names with the most ancient and solemn atmosphere in the 4th chapter. When Bifron appears, we seem to step into an old cemetery, where there is no loud sound, only wet grass, worn inscriptions on stone, and small lights trembling in the night. Bifrons should not be told through horror. What matters is the feeling of memory. A tomb is where the living leave behind the name of the dead. A candle on a grave does not only illuminate cold stone, it says that someone still remembers. Bifrons is connected with studies such as astrology and geometry, creating a strange combination: tombs and mathematics, memory and order, the dead and the stars. Perhaps in the ancient imagination, understanding the world was not only a matter of looking up at the sky, but also of looking down at the place where human beings return to the earth. Bifrons is the keeper of what has been forgotten, but he also reminds us that forgetfulness never fully wins as long as even one small candle is lit. The 47th name is Vual, or Uval, a great duke. Vual is first described in the form of a camel, and afterward may take human form. Speaking in Egyptian or in an ancient and unfamiliar voice, he is connected with love, friendship, reconciliation between friend and foe, and also with speaking of the past, present, and future, after the darkness of tombs and fortresses. Vual brings into the chapter a wind from a distant land. The image of the camel suggests desert roads, caravans crossing the sand at night, ancient cities beneath a sky full of stars, and a language that seems to come from another age. Vual is well suited to soften the rhythm of the story. He is not strongly tied to breaking or loss, but to the restoration of connection between people. In him, we meet again the theme of reconciliation that has appeared in earlier chapters, but this time with a more distant feeling. like a message carried across the desert after many years of silence. Some relationships cannot be repaired with a hurried apology. They require time, distance, waiting, and sometimes a new kind of language so that both sides can finally hear one another. Voile, with the form of a camel in the night, is like the messenger of affections once left behind. And the final name of chapter 4 is Hagenti, a great president, often described in the form of a great bull with the wings of a griffin, and then able to take human form. Hagenti is connected with transformation, making human beings wiser, turning metal into gold, turning water into wine, and wine into water. After fortresses, night seas, tombs, stone walls, and lost things. Hagenti closes the chapter with the image of transformation, one of the oldest dreams of occult tradition. After Hagenti, the image of transformation still lingers in the candlelight. Metal, water, wine, wisdom, all seem to have just changed form within the dark room of the Ars Goetia. But when the next page is turned, the atmosphere is no longer heavy with fortresses, night seas, or buried things. This chapter opens more softly, more deeply, as if the listener is leaving the stone walls behind and stepping into a land where distant birdsong can be heard, where underground water flows beneath the earth, where star maps rest upon the table, and where ancient disciplines are written in faded ink. The 49th name is Crocel, a great and powerful duke. Crocel is described as an angel, yet his speech is mysterious and difficult to understand. He is connected with geometry, the liberal sciences, and especially the sound of water. In the Ars Goetia, Crocel can create the sound of running water where there is no water, warm the waters, and reveal the places where springs or hidden sources may be found. And so, when the name Crocel appears, it is as if, in the silence of the library, we suddenly hear a faint murmur of flowing water coming from somewhere we cannot see. Crocel opens chapter 5 with a very strange feeling. Invisible water. This is not the vast sea of folklore or vipar from the previous chapter, but water hidden beneath stone, beneath earth, beneath the silent layer of the world. Human beings have long known that where there is water, there is life. A village can rise around a well. A caravan can be saved by a small spring. A lost traveler can survive simply because they hear the sound of a stream behind the rocks. Crocel, therefore, is not only the spirit of flowing water, but also a symbol of knowledge concealed beneath the surface. There are things that do not appear before the eyes, yet still move quietly beneath life, waiting for someone patient enough to listen. After Crocel comes Furcus, the 50th name. Furcus is a knight, often described as a stern old man with white hair and a long beard, riding a pale horse and carrying a weapon in his hand. But what is remarkable is that Furcus does not stand out because of battle, but because of the subjects he teaches: philosophy, astrology, rhetoric, logic, palmistry, and arts connected with fire. That image creates a beautiful contrast. An old knight, instead of charging into the battlefield, becomes like a teacher riding through the dark night, carrying with him the disciplines of an age long gone. Furcus makes the listener feel as though they are sitting in an ancient classroom. On the table lies a star map, a hand marked with lines, a small flame burning in a bronze vessel, and questions about reason, fate, speech, and the nature of things. In the old world, philosophy was not something dry. It was the way human beings asked why they lived, why they suffered, why the stars seemed to have order, and why words could persuade another person's mind. Furcus stands here like an unpredictable teacher, reminding us that the lessons of the invisible world do not come only from fear, but also from the desire to understand oneself. The next name is Balam, a great and powerful king. Balam is described in a strange form, with 3 heads, one of a bull, one of a man, and one of a ram, with burning eyes, a serpent's tail, riding upon a bear and carrying a hawk on his hand. Balam answers concerning the past, present, and future, and can make a person invisible or wiser, after the quietness of Crokel and Furcus. Balam brings this chapter back toward an image of ancient power, yet still within the theme of knowledge. Baalam's 3 heads are like 3 different directions of sight. One gaze turns toward instinct, one toward humanity, and one toward ritual power and tradition. The bear beneath him is the weight of the earth, while the bird of prey on his hand is vision from above, Balaam. Therefore, feels like an image assembled from many layers of the world, earth, sky, beast, human being, fire, and prophecy. But what stands out most is his ability to know the past, the present, and the future. Human beings always want to see their lives as a straight line that can be read. But time is not easy to hold in the hand. Balaam stands in this chapter as a king of vision, both expanding the mind and reminding us that knowing more does not always make human beings more peaceful. After Balaam comes Aloses, or Alosir, a great duke. Aloses is often described as a soldier riding a great horse, with the face of a lion, burning red eyes, and a resounding voice. He teaches astronomy and the liberal sciences. With Aloses, the image of the warrior and the scholar merges once again. We can imagine a lion-faced rider standing beneath the night sky, not looking down at a battlefield, but gazing upward at the constellations. Aloses makes the listener realize that in the Ars Goetia, knowledge does not always appear in a gentle form. It may arrive wearing armor, with the sound of hooves, with bright eyes in the darkness in earlier times. Astronomy was not only the observation of celestial bodies, it was also connected with fate, harvests, calendars, power, religion, and the feeling that the sky might be saying something to the earth below. Aloses, in a form both fierce and solemn, is like a guardian of the lessons above. He reminds us that the night sky was not only beautiful to look at, it was once a gigantic book that human beings tried to read, star by star. The 53rd name is Caim, or Cameo. Caim is a great president, often first appearing in the form of a bird, especially a thrush or a blackbird, and then able to take human form while carrying a sword. He is said to understand the voices of birds, dogs, cattle, and waters, and to answer concerning things that are to come. In Came, Chapter 5 touches one of humanity's most beautiful dreams, to understand the speech of the non-human world. Imagine a very quiet night. Far away, a bird calls from the branches. A dog barks at the end of the road. Water touches softly against stone. To us, these may be only sounds, but in the ancient imagination, each of those sounds could be a message. Birds know the paths of the seasons. Dogs hear what human ears miss. Cattle sense the rhythm of the earth and the pasture. Water knows the lowest path through stone. Chaim represents the desire to hear the natural world again with wider ears. He does not merely teach language, kitio, he teaches listening. After Chaim comes Murmur, a great duke and count. Murmur is described as a warrior riding a vulture or a griffin, wearing a ducal crown, with two figures going before him and sounding trumpets. He teaches philosophy and can compel the souls of the dead to answer. But in the voice of this chapter, Murmur does not need to appear as a frightening scene. His very name already suggests a low sound, like a distant whisper in a stone corridor. Murmur brings us back to the question human beings have never stopped asking: do the dead still have anything to say? But unlike Bifrons in the previous chapter, where tombs and candles appeared very clearly, Murmur is more like sound than image. A faraway trumpet, a question in the night, a philosophy class where the teacher no longer belongs to the world of the living. In Murmur, knowledge and death meet. Philosophy is always asked about the soul, time, the nature of life, and the limits of human beings. For that reason, Murmur is not only the one who calls forth voices from beyond, he is the image of curiosity before the final thing none of us can ever fully explain. The 55th name is Orobus, a great prince, who often first appears in the form of a horse, and then can take human form. Orobas is described as answering truthfully concerning the past, present, and future, concerning divinity, the creation of the world, and he can grant rank, favor, and friendship between the caller and others. In particular, within the tradition of the Ars Goetia, Orobus is often viewed as a loyal spirit, one who does not deceive the caller if summoned according to the order of the text. Orobus creates a rather different stillness within the list. Among so many spirits carrying ambiguity, temptation, or danger, Orobus appears as a more solemn image. The horse is an animal of long roads, endurance, and journeys. When Orobus changes from horse form into human form, we feel as if an ancient instinct is becoming speech that can be understood. He is connected with truth, rank, and loyalty. Yet even here, the Ars Goetia still makes us think. Human beings always want to find a trustworthy voice in the darkness. They want someone to answer without deceiving them. They want to be protected from falsehood. Orobus, therefore, is not only a name, he is the dream of an unchanging truth within a world full of shifting forms. After Oribus comes grimoire, or Gamori, a powerful duke. Grimoire is described in the form of a beautiful woman, wearing a ducal crown and riding upon a camel. Grimoire speaks of the past, present, and future, of hidden treasures, and is connected with love. This image is rich with storytelling. A royal figure traveling through the night desert on the back of a camel, carrying secrets about treasure and emotions buried deep. Grimoire should not be told simply as a seductive image. What is more interesting is the combination of crown, camel, memory, and love. The camel is the animal of long distances, patience, and journeys across barren places. Hidden treasure does not only lie beneath the earth. There are treasures hidden in memory, in an old love, in something a person has never spoken aloud. Grimoire is therefore like one who crosses the desert of the human heart, pointing toward what has been buried beneath the sands of time. But once it is found, will human beings know how to keep it without destroying it? The 57th name is Ose, or Voso. Ose is a great president, appearing in the form of a leopard, and afterward able to take human form. Ose teaches the liberal sciences, answers concerning sacred and secret matters, but is most notable for the ability to make a person believe they have been transformed into another shape, or into another person. In Ose, Chapter 5 steps into the realm of the illusion of identity. This is one of the most frightening yet subtle ideas in the Ars Goetia. It is not the loss of a house, gold, or honor, but the loss of certainty about the self. Human beings often believe that I is the clearest thing of all, but in dreams, in fear, in ambition, in the social roles we play, a person may become another version of themselves to the point that they no longer recognize who they are. Ose is the spirit of the mask that sticks too tightly to the face. He reminds us that some transformations do not need to happen in the body. If the mind believes long enough, a person can live like a stranger to themselves. After Ose comes Amy, or Avnus, a great president. Amy is first described as appearing in the form of fire, and afterward taking human form. He teaches astrology and the liberal sciences, grants good servants, and reveals treasures kept by other spirits. The image of Amy brings fire back, but it is different from Aim in the previous chapter. Amy's fire is like the flame of a furnace of learning, the fire that illuminates a star map, the fire burning on the desk of someone staying awake late into the night to read. Amy is knowledge made luminous, but that light still has two sides. It helps us see more clearly, yet it also draws human beings deeper into the night. Astrology, in the ancient context, was an attempt to find the relationship between the sky and human life. The liberal sciences were a path by which the mind trained itself. The treasure that Amy reveals can therefore be understood more broadly than silver or gold. It is the treasure of learning, of the ability to see order in things that seem scattered. Amy reminds us that human beings do not only search for treasure underground. Sometimes they search for it in books, in the stars, in the small flame that keeps the night from becoming completely dark. The 59th name is Orius, or Oriax, a great marquis. Orius is described as a lion riding a great horse, with a serpent's tail and two serpents in his hands. He knows the mansions of the planets. the influence of the stars, the transformation of human form, and grants rank and favor. In Orias, astronomy and social status meet again. The sky does not merely lie above. In the ancient imagination, it can influence the order below, the condition, nobility, temperament, and opportunities of human beings. Orias is a name very suited to the starry theme of this chapter. We can imagine a celestial map spread open on the table, the planets marked with ancient symbols. While outside the window, the night sky stands still as if listening. Orias represents the dream of reading the hidden structure of fate. Human beings want to know under which star they stand, what destiny they belong to, and how they might be raised higher. But like every promise in the Ars Goetia, this idea comes with a shadow. If we believe too strongly that our lives have already been written in the sky, do we still have enough freedom to change them? And the final name of chapter 5 is Vapula, a great duke, often described as a lion with griffin wings. Vapula teaches crafts, philosophy, and the sciences. After the birdsong of Caim, the hidden waters of Crocel, the philosophy of Furcus, and the starlight of Alosis, Murmur, Amy, and Orias. Vapula closes the chapter with the image of the human hand, not only the one who watches the stars or listens to invisible voices, but the one who makes real things, tools, drawings, crafts, structures, knowledge brought into form. Vapula is a beautiful name with which to end the chapter because he connects the invisible world with visible labor. An idea must become a line. A philosophy must become a way of living. A discipline must pass into the hands, into tools, into materials, into the patient work of human beings. In Vapula's imagined room, we see wood, stone, metal, drawings, open books, and small tools placed neatly beneath the lamp. After so many spirits who speak of prophecy, treasure, and the stars, Vapula reminds us that knowledge is not only for contemplation, it is also for creation. From Crocel to Vapula. Chapter 5 is like a gentler journey through the lessons of the invisible world. Crocel lets us hear water flowing where no water can be seen. Furcus opens the classroom of philosophy, logic, and astrology. Balam brings a threefold vision of the past, present, and future. Alosis lifts our eyes to the stars. Caim teaches us to listen to birds, dogs, cattle, and running water. Murmur whispers of philosophy and the voices of the dead. Orobus offers the image of truth and loyalty. Grimoire crosses the desert of memory, treasure, and love. Oz places us before the mirror of identity. Amy lights the flame of astrology and learning. Orias opens the map of the planets. And Vapula brings everything back to the hands of human beings, where knowledge can finally take shape. After Vapula, the room of ancient disciplines slowly recedes into the darkness. The birdsong, the hidden water beneath the stones, the star maps, and the tools of craft still linger in the imagination. But as the Ars Goetia turns toward its final pages, the atmosphere begins to change. This is the last stretch of the list, where the final names appear like the last seals upon a door about to close. The 61st name is Zagan, a great king and president. Zagan is often described in the form of a bull with griffin wings, and then able to take human form. He is connected with transformation, making human beings wiser, turning water into wine, wine into water, and, in some descriptions, transforming other forms of matter as well. And so, from the very beginning of the final chapter, the Ars Goetia brings us back to one of humanity's oldest dreams, the dream of changing the nature of things. But Zagan does not only speak of magical transformation, he is like a symbol of a very deep human desire to make the ordinary become precious, to turn ignorance into understanding, to move one's life from an old state into a new form. But true transformation is never simple. A human being who wishes to become wiser must often pass through mistakes, time, loss, and long stretches of silence. Zagan opens the final chapter with a gentle yet profound reminder: every transformation has its price. After Zagan comes Valak, or Volak, a powerful president. Valak is described as a child with angelic wings, riding upon a two-headed dragon. This image is beautiful, strange, and unforgettable. A child suggests purity and beginnings, while a two-headed dragon evokes ancient power, danger, and two opposing directions of sight. Valak is connected with revealing hidden treasures and places where serpents may be found. With Valak, the final chapter feels like stepping into a dream filled with silver light. A winged child flies through a stone vault. Beneath him, a two-headed dragon. While in the darkness lies a treasure no one has yet discovered. But treasure in the Ars Goetia is not only gold. It may be an answer, a place to belong, a hidden truth, or a piece of memory buried deep. And the serpents that Valak reveals remind us that what we find is not always only glittering. Sometimes it also moves in the dark. The 63rd name is Andras, a great marquis. Andras is described as an angel with the head of a raven or an owl, riding upon a black wolf, with a sharp sword in his hand. In this list, Andras is a name to be approached with caution, because he is connected with discord and division. After Zagan's transformation and Valak's hidden treasure, Andras carries the final chapter into a colder region, where truth is not only found, but may also cause human beings to turn away from one another. Andras does not need to be told through violence. Imagine him as a shadow passing along the edge of a night forest. Above is the gaze of a bird looking down. Beneath him, the black wolf moves in silence. In his hand is a sword that does not need to be raised. Its presence alone is enough to tighten the air. Discord often begins very small, a misunderstood sentence, a silence that lasts too long, a suspicion left unexplained. Andras is the spirit of that crack, reminding us that not every final door closes in peace. After Andras comes Haurus, or Flauros, a great duke. Haurus is first described in the form of a leopard or a great cat, and afterward can appear in human form with burning eyes. He answers concerning the past, present, and future, while also speaking of the fall, divinity, and the cosmic order according to the understanding of the old text in Ars. The final chapter touches another kind of knowledge of origins, of what has been lost, and of stories larger than the human self. Ars is like a flame in the eyes of darkness. He brings the listener close to questions that usually arise only when the night has grown very deep. Why is there a fall? Why does power become corrupted? Why can something once bright descend into darkness? These questions do not belong only to mythology. They also belong to human life. Everyone has seen a promise turn into disappointment. Someone once trustworthy become a stranger. An ideal once radiant slowly covered in dust. Ars stands in that place, where truth is not only revealed, but also makes the listener heavy-hearted because they understand too much. The 65th name is Andrealphus, a great marquise. Andrealphus appears in the form of a peacock with a loud cry and can then take human form. He teaches geometry, measurement, astronomy, and makes human beings more refined in these disciplines. In the rhythm of the final chapter, Andrealphus feels like a breath after the tense images of Andras and Haurus. The peacock opens its tail in the darkness like a fan full of eyes, each eye a viewpoint, an angle of measurement, a small star. Andrealphus brings us back to order. Geometry is the art of lines, angles, circles, and proportion. Astronomy is the art of watching distant movements and finding law within them. After discord, fire, and questions of the fall, Andrealphus reminds us that human beings have always tried to measure the world again. When life is chaotic, we draw lines. When the sky is too vast, we name constellations. When we fear being lost, we measure distance. Perhaps that is one of the most beautiful human responses to darkness, not only to tremble, but to observe, to learn, and to find a form that can be understood. After Andrealphus comes Chimaeus, or Chimaris, a great marquise. Chimaeus is described as a mighty warrior riding upon a black horse. He teaches grammar, logic, rhetoric, and helps find things that have been lost or treasures that are hidden. The image of Chimaeus fits very well with the final stretch of the journey, a warrior moving through the night, whose most important weapons are not only strength, but language and reason. Chimaeus reminds us that recovering what has been lost does not always require digging beneath the earth. Sometimes it requires a sentence spoken more clearly, an argument arranged more correctly, a memory named more precisely. Grammar is the way speech is kept in order. Logic is the way thought is kept from losing itself inside its own maze. Rhetoric is the way what we know becomes something another person can hear. Chimaeus, therefore, is not only the one who searches for treasure, he is the one who reminds us that some treasures lie in the ability to express the truth with clarity. The 67th name is Amdusias, a great duke. Amdusias is first described in the form of a unicorn, and then able to change into human form. He is connected with music, with trumpets, with instruments sounding though no player can be seen. And in the old description, trees may bend according to his will, after Simagis of language and reason. Amdusias brings the final chapter into a very different space, the space of sound. Imagine the dark room suddenly filled with very distant music. No player is visible. No procession of musicians appears. Only sound emerging like mist. A trumpet at the end of the corridor. A string trembling in the darkness. A forest beyond the window seems to lean slightly in the wind. As if listening. Amdusias is one of the most beautiful names to tell in a bedtime style. He does not need to bring a powerful spectacle. Invisible music alone is enough to make the listener feel that this world still contains movements the eye cannot see. Music has no shape, yet it can change the rhythm of the heart. And on this journey, Amdusias reminds us that not every power comes through fire, sword, or gold. Some powers arrive through sound. After Amdusias comes Belial, the 68th king, one of the most famous names beyond the Ars Goetia itself, in many religious and literary traditions. Belial carries complex layers of meaning, often connected with worthlessness, rebellion, or forces opposed to sacred order. In the Ars Goetia, Belial is described as a mighty king, appearing with solemn dignity and connected with titles, favor, status, and relationships of power. With Belial, the story must be told slowly and carefully. This is not a name that should be turned into cheap sensationalism. What is most notable in Belial is the combination of noble appearance and moral danger. He arrives like an image of power dressed in ritual. Yet beneath it lies the question of true worth. Can a person reach high status and still be empty inside? Can a title be granted without virtue? Can a court look magnificent while rotting at its foundation? Belial stands near the end of the list like a dark mirror, showing that power, when separated from morality, can become an emptiness before which human beings still kneel. The 69th name is Decarabia, a great marquise. Decarabia appears as a star within a pentagonal figure, and then may take human form. He knows the properties of precious stones and birds, and can make birds appear, sing and drink water like real birds. After the heaviness of Belial, Decarabia makes the atmosphere strangely lighter. A star appears within an old figure, and from it comes birdsong, precious stones, and small creatures of the sky. Decarabia is like a soft brightening before the book closes. The star is an image of distance, of order above, of something glittering yet beyond reach. Birds are movement, song, and freedom. Precious stones are light held inside the earth. In Decarabia, sky, earth, and living beings meet, softening the final chapter after the heavy power of Belial. It is as if the Ars Goetia wants to remind us that the world still contains small beauties, a thin bird song, a light hidden in stone, a thing that does not need to become a throne in order to have value. After Decarabia comes Sitri, a powerful prince, often described as a handsome man riding upon a winged horse. He can move very quickly through the world, carry things away, bring things back, recover what has been lost, and complete tasks in a short time. Among the final spirits, Seer carries a much lighter quality. He is like a messenger of speed, a figure gliding across the night sky on the back of a winged horse. Seer represents a very familiar desire, the desire for everything to happen faster. Human beings want answers immediately, want lost things returned, want distance shortened, want time to obey their will. But speed also has its own shadow. When things arrive too quickly, we may not have time to understand the value of what we receive. Seer passes by like a bright wind, leaving behind a very quiet question. If every distance is erased, does the journey still teach us anything? The 71st name is Dantalion, a great duke. Dantalion is described as having many faces, both male and female, and holding a book in his right hand. He knows the thoughts of human beings, can change thoughts, teaches arts and sciences, creates illusions, and shows the image of another person even when they are far away. Near the end of the list, Dantalion becomes one of the deepest names because he does not only touch gold, water, starlight, or fortresses. He touches the mind. The faces of Dantalion are like the many layers of identity within a single human being. Each face is a thought, a role, a memory, a fear, or a person we once wished to become. The book in his hand resembles the book of the mind, where every page records the things never spoken aloud. Dantalion represents something human beings both long for and fear: to be understood completely. Everyone wants someone to understand them. But if someone truly saw every thought within us, leaving nothing unseen, would we still feel safe? In Dantalion, the Ars Goetia enters its most psychological region. Illusion is not only a false image appearing before the eyes. Illusion is also the stories we tell ourselves in order to keep living. A person may believe they are not hurting, while still hurting, believe they have forgotten, while not having forgotten, believe they want one thing, while in truth they are running away from another, with his many faces and the book in his hand. Dantalion is the spirit of the inner labyrinth. Before the final seal closes, the Ars Goetia forces the reader to look at the hardest place to control, the human mind itself. And finally, the 72nd name is Andromalius. He is a great and powerful count, the final spirit in the order of the Ars Goetia. Andromalius is described as a man holding a great serpent in his hand. His task is to bring back thieves and stolen goods, detect deceit, expose hidden deeds, punish the wicked, and uncover hidden treasure. After 71 names have passed through knowledge, love, glory, war, gold, starlight, water, tombs, music, illusion, and the mind, it is fitting that the final name should be connected with truth being brought to light. Andromalius is the final lock of the book. He does not begin with a promise of transformation like Zagan. He does not fly through the night like Seer, nor does he carry many faces like Dantalion. He stands at the end of the road, holding a serpent in his hand, like an image of vigilance and judgment. The serpent here is not only danger, it is also a symbol of something that once crawled in the darkness, but is now brought into the light. Andromalius closes the list with a very powerful idea. In the end, whatever has been stolen, hidden, distorted, concealed behind stone walls or behind words, can be named. There is a beautiful symmetry between the first name and the last. Bael, the first spirit, is connected with making a person invisible. Andromalius, the final spirit, is connected with revealing what has been hidden. The journey begins with the desire to disappear from sight and ends with the desire to pull truth into the light. Between these 2 points lies the entire map of the Ars Goetia. Human beings want to love, to know, to become rich, to win, to speak well, to hear birdsong, to read the stars, to find treasure, to transform themselves, to understand the minds of others, and finally, to know what is true, from Zagan to Andromalius. Chapter 6 is like the final corridor of a windowless library. Zagan speaks of transformation. Valak reveals treasure and things hidden in darkness. Andras warns of discord. Haures opens the question of the fall. Andrealphus measures the sky through geometry. Simages passes through grammar, logic, and lost things. Amdusius lets invisible music echo through the night. Belial raises the question of power and worth. De Carabia makes the star, the precious stone, and the birdsong appear one last time. Seer flies across distance with the speed of a dream. Dantalion opens the book of the mind, and Andromalius closes everything with revelation. When Andromalius appears at the end of the page, the candle on the table seems to burn more slowly. There are not many pages left to turn. The names have passed, one by one, like figures in a long dream. Some wear crowns, some ride horses, some appear as birds, lions, serpents, dragons, unicorns, wolves, bulls, leopards, crocodiles, ravens, and distorted angels. But behind all those forms, what remains is not only fear, what remains is the portrait of humanity across centuries. Human beings feared sickness, and so they wrote of spirits who could heal. They feared losing honor, and so they wrote of spirits who could restore speech. They feared the future, and so they wrote of beings who knew what had not yet come. They feared being forgotten, and so they lit candles upon graves. They feared being deceived, and so they placed Andromalius at the end to expose deceit. And perhaps, more than anything, human beings feared their own helplessness. And so they imagined a book where everything had a name, a form, a rank, and its own seal. Now, the Ars Goetia slowly begins to close. The music of Amdusius dissolves into silence. The wings of Seer's horse disappear beyond the dome of night. The many faces of Dantalion close within the book he holds in his hand. And Andromalius, the final one, still stands there in the imagination, holding the great serpent as though holding the very thing that had once been hidden. And here, our journey tonight through all 72 spirits of the Ars Goetia slowly comes to a close. From Bael, the first name that opens the list, to Andromalius, the final spirit standing on the last page like a guardian of hidden truth. We have passed through a world shaped by fear, desire, knowledge, and the very old questions of humankind. There are spirits who promise treasure. There are those who speak of the stars, language, herbs, glory, love, memory, illusion, and things that have been lost. But the deeper we read into the book, the more we realize that the Ars Goetia does not speak only of demons. It also speaks of human beings themselves, of the dream to know more, to control more, and to touch the doors that perhaps should have remained locked. Now, the candle has nearly burned out. The old pages close. The library returns to its silent darkness. Thank you for accompanying me tonight. If you would like to continue exploring ancient books, legends, and forgotten secrets, leave the next topic below, press like, and subscribe to the channel so we can step together into the stories yet to come.